And I keep thinking like, why am I not getting the business results that I want? I'm not growing as fast. Well, look at my focus. It is everywhere. And in the middle of that, anyone who asked me to hang out, I'm there. Because I just was too nervous to say no. I'm like, I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings. And I might be busy this week, but I'm probably not next. And so I felt like I always had to say yes. And I would get to the end of my weeks and be like, I didn't do anything I wanted to do. And I'd look back and be like, well, I packed it with so many things. I didn't have time to do it. And my typically where I would go is, okay, how do I get more efficient? How do I get more productive? How do I add in habits?
Yeah, how do I pack in more stuff and do it efficiently to do it
more
at less quality? Yeah.
And finally, I'm like, I need to eliminate. Usually the best way to focus more and to get more productive is to start cutting things out instead of adding things in.
Hey guys, I'm here this week with my friend Jonathan McGinley with Intentional Man. We are going to dive into his story of when he decided to turn from trying to be perfect all the time to just being real. He talks about, and we discuss the power, especially for men, of living on purpose, with purpose, being and living intentionally, just showing up who we are every day. We're going to talk about the power of saying no for leaders and why they must do that for themselves, their teams, and the people they serve. Check it out. Are you a faith-based father and looking for intentional ways to connect with your son in a big way? If so, you have to check out the Father-Son Hike of a Lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. June 2025, I am taking a group of faith-based fathers and their sons over to Spain for 9 days and the adventure of a lifetime. Go check it out at mattschaup.com/Spain. On that page, you'll actually see all of my upcoming Spain adventures, but make sure to check out the Father-Son Hike of a Lifetime. Jonathan McGinley.
Excited to be here.
Dude, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, super excited to be here.
We've been talking about this for a little bit. I was on your podcast, last year?
It was a year or two ago. It's been a little bit.
You were just launching Intentional Man, right?
I was. I did the podcast first, and you came on in the early days, and then I took the podcast concept and created a business with it. And that's been in the last year.
Yeah, you've gone through just quite a journey, quite a bit of transition, and really found God's calling for your life to serve men, and you're all in. And I'm super excited to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I love it.
So just take us back. You're you obviously shared with me when we were talking before. Grew up a pastor's kid, right? So that has just a certain story to it, right? All eyes are on you, and they're just waiting for you to. They're just waiting to see what you do, right? And then talk a little bit about that, just growing up in the church as a pastor's kid and where that led you to today.
Yeah. So I was one of 8 kids. So my parents actually adopted 5, and then we had 3 biological kids. So I was one of 8, so big family. And my dad's been a pastor now for 36 years. So literally my entire life, he has been a senior pastor. So
he's done nothing else in your
He was a radio broadcaster before me, and then he was a pastor ever since. So I was pretty much born into the church. From the day I was born, I was in church every week all the way until now. So with that, I feel like pastors' kids, usually you hear they go one of 2 ways, right? You're either, it's fed to you so much that you kind of say, I'm over this and I'm going to rebel and go the other way, or you dive into everything and you serve on every team and you're in the church 4 days a week doing all that. And that was kind of more the route that I ended up going. Okay. So I was in the church all the time growing up.
That's just all you knew, right? That's
all I knew.
Business kid growing up in business or whatever that is.
Yes. Yep. Children's school, into youth groups. I was playing drums on the worship team ever since I was probably 13 years old. Grew up in the church big time and loved it in a lot of ways. Love my family, but you definitely have it feels like there's a lot of eyes on you.
There are, right? Like kids of anybody in any leadership position, right? But especially that, they're going to be watching.
For sure. Yep.
So did you know that at the time? Was it more looking back, you just realize that now? Or when you're doing life, do you just feel that sense of everybody's watching? They're waiting to see.
It's more looking back, honestly. There's just been parts of my story where I've realized that. And I think the biggest way that it played out that I didn't really notice a lot was I felt the need to be perfect in order to lead well. I felt like, if I'm going to be on stage talking or if I'm going to be drumming, you got to be the guy who's doing all the things right. And I love that part of the conviction I have to practice what I preach. But that can go poorly if you feel pressure all the time to act a certain way and you're never actually really vulnerable with who you are or what you're feeling. So that was a lot of what I felt, and I honestly didn't really know it until later looking back, realizing, oh, there's a lot of my life where I felt like I had to perform or I had to come across perfectly, or in order to be a leader, that you have to do everything right.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was openly put on you, or just something that you were picking up? Did anybody ever tell you, hey, you need to make sure that like this is perfect and you're perfect? Or was it just being in that environment and putting that on yourself in a way?
I think it was more just being in that environment. I don't really remember my parents or anyone specifically saying that, but our family has a great reputation in town. My dad's been in this area for a long time, and so people just kind of know him, know our family. So I think some of that felt like I was like, I can't be the one to ruin the McGinley name or the McGinley reputation. I mean, I need to make sure I'm always acting in a certain way.
When did you start? Because like Riley's 17, right? So he's working at In-N-Out Burger, and he's like, man, all your business friends, jump in here all the time and say hi, and tell me how they know you, Dad. And when did you find out, like, hey, Dad's well known here. Dad has a great reputation. I've got to continue that. Was there a certain point or time in life when that came up for you?
Probably noticed it the most in high school, I think, because he was coaching my basketball team. He was the athletic director at the school. He's the pastor. So we had my whole school community, the Christian school. I grew up there, and everyone knew him really well there. Then you had the whole church community, and everyone really knew him well there. Then I started to play drums at other churches. So I'm getting plugged into all the different church communities around. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, your dad's amazing, which he is. And he's one of the most intentional guys I know. But I think that's when I was kind of like, yeah, we have it's pretty awesome, the legacy he's leaving here. And I admire that and respect that so much.
Yeah.
But that's probably when I noticed, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of people who know who my dad is.
So, and then there's even more pressure, would you say? Like another layer of pressure?
Yeah, a little bit, honestly. And it's funny because I don't feel like I really noticed it a whole lot until I got to college. I played college basketball at Colorado Christian. And it was funny because moving from that environment to then a new environment, and I was used to being one of the best players on the team, and now you're a freshman and you're not playing very much. I lost all confidence. I lost kind of a sense of myself. Realized a lot of my identity was wrapped up in our family and our family's successes, and then my success on the court. And then all of a sudden that's kind of all gone. And that was one of the first times where I realized, like, oh, I was really relying on this for my identity in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So you run Intentional Man right now, and the purpose of that, you were talking to Kevin down in the lobby. It's like, hey, you were at a men's conference, right? 400 guys. How many had intentional fathers? And 2, 3 of them put their hand up. You did.
And I was one of them who did.
I know so many men that don't, but I usually see things like what you do birthed out of a story where you don't have that. Yeah. It's actually rare, at least in my experience of people I've met, where you have that and want to continue that. So what made you decide that you wanted to build Intentional Man, right? Yeah. Started the podcast. You've got the whole program and coaching and everything. So kind of take me through that. Yep. Just that story. Like, what's the origin story of Intentional Man?
Yeah. So I had come out of college. I got married when I was 23 years old. So I was just a year out of college. And I didn't really, honestly, in college, really know what I wanted to do with my life. I got a business marketing degree because I just felt like that was the most broad one I could do that's going to apply to everything. So I just kind of coasted through college, didn't really care about it, but was like, I know I need to get a degree, got it in marketing. And then I kind of fell into the digital marketing world, mostly website design or project management. So kind of fast forward till I'm about 28, and I'm working for a digital marketing company, and I'm a project manager for website build. So pretty much I'm the guy who works with the clients to make sure the website gets built the way that they want it to. And honestly, in this part of my life, just really felt like I was coasting, man, just going through the motions, because I wasn't passionate about what I was doing work-wise, and it just felt like every day was kind of the same. And this was pretty unconscious. Like, I wouldn't have said that I was really a passive person. But when I look back on that season, I'm like, yeah, I just got really comfortable. I stopped dreaming. I stopped pursuing the things that I wanted to do. I kind of, my biggest dream early on was to be a drummer, and that was one of my biggest ambitions, and that kind of slowly died. So I just found myself just and going to church, going through the motions. I could pretty easily lead things just because I've done it my whole life, but I wasn't really there and intentional in it. And so all of that ended up in, it had been fall of 2019 when I was 28 years old. Ended up going through a rockier season with my wife at that point. and we got separated. And it wasn't until the separation where I really realized I've been really passive. I've been coasting in a lot of areas. My life's just been on cruise control. And also realizing the pressure that I felt to be perfect and not allowing myself to be vulnerable and genuine with people, even with my friends. I was pretty surface level. And it took, all of a sudden you have this separation, and it's a very public thing. Like, for how much we tried to keep it quiet, it just gets out there. So all of a sudden now I have something that's completely out of my control. And I feel like all eyes are on me in this biggest failure of my life at this point. And at that point I was like, man, what I've been doing is not working.
And the unfortunate thing, right, is everybody's waiting for the pastor or the pastor's kid to fail.
Yeah.
Out there. I mean, that's a reality. Mm-hmm. And then you have that. And then most people take sides when there's a divorce and cling to one side of the story, right? Don't get to know the other one. So growing up, when you talked about just not being vulnerable, coasting, were you ever vulnerable? And then you saw a response to that, so stopped being, or were you just never in a position where you were vulnerable? Can you think of like any time growing up?
I don't think there was like one moment, but I did just feel that. Even in my marriage, I felt like, I'm the one who wants to be leading the family, and I want to make sure we're, drawing close to the Lord. And we have a God-centered marriage. And so even for me to say, like, I was honestly having some doubts, not about God in general, but just some things I was really wrestling with the Lord. And I didn't feel like I could even share those with her because I was nervous that then that was going to make her question God or have her own doubts and stuff. And so I just kind of kept those to myself in a lot of ways, feeling like if I show weakness, it might cause others to be weak, and maybe they'll stumble because they think I have it together. And so that was more of what I was doing. Yeah.
Do you think that's in just the Christian church environment anyway? Like overall, do you think that's...
It definitely can be.
Wherever you go?
It definitely can be. And I think with men in particular, especially, because we don't want to show our faults. We don't want to show, the chinks in our armor. A lot of times we get our validation from what other people think of us or our success or career success or... so we want to keep this image that we're doing well and we're strong and we're courageous and we got things together. And so a lot of times we don't go to those places where we actually share, like, I'm struggling or I'm going through this. It just feels like a really vulnerable thing to say, I need help or I need you or I don't have this thing together. Yeah. And so a lot of times I think in Christian circles, and especially with men, we just struggle to go there.
So separation happens, right? Very, very public thing. Are you starting to, so now you're in it, right? You're kind of just thrust into that.
For sure.
So what was that first moment of just diving into vulnerability? What did that look like?
Yep.
Looking back on it now. So when it becomes conscious, right? And you're like, oh, here we are.
Yeah. So
how was that?
So what happened, and this is such a God moment when I look back on it. So the day after we got separated, I just took a day off of work because I was like, I need to go away, just hang with God, kind of figure this thing out. So went to Estes Park, spending the day just praying, getting in scripture. And I remember vividly thinking, and there was a lot of emotions in that moment. And I remember and this is such a God moment that it was this clear, but I remember just seeing, like, I have two paths here. I can play the victim card. I can feel really sorry for myself. I can self-medicate with alcohol or whatever to get my mind off of this pain. And I can go that path and I can blame her for everything and I can just play the victim. Or the other path is I can control what I can control. I can stick with God as close as I possibly can. I can become the best man that I possibly can be in this, and I can seek help and I can be real. And I remember it was like this moment where I just pulled back from all the intensity of the emotions. And I just saw these two paths. And I was like, well, obviously this is the best one. When I think about the longevity, I don't want to go down this way where I just blame everybody. I want to stay close to God. I want to see what he's doing in this. And I know all I can control right now is the man that I'm going to be and the way that I can grow through this. And I just wanted to come back the best I possibly could for her to try to save the marriage. And
because you're separated at this point, right? This is not official. Divorce.
Not officially divorced. Separated, and that's day one. So I just said, okay, what do I need to do to go down this path? And so I committed to spending time with the Lord every single day. I committed to fasting once a week. I got 3 different mentors in my life, guys that were older than me, wiser than me, in different areas of life. And I just asked them, can we meet? This is what's happening. I need help. And these guys were amazing. I owe so much to them. They all committed to meeting with me once a week.
Yeah.
So I had 3 different meetings every single week with guys that were amazing role models and mentors to me.
And how many of us sit here, because I've been here too, right? We're like, that guy would never meet with me. Like, he's too busy. He's too important. He's too this far ahead, and I'm right here. So they don't ask.
For sure.
Like, anytime I've asked somebody, just about every time, right? Like, they've been willing to do that. Like, just reach out and ask for help. And most people that have, like they were where you are now, and now they're here, and they want to help you get there. Like, there's a cycle of contribution for that.
Absolutely.
So you're diving in with these guys.
So diving in with these guys. And then I got some of my closest friends together and just kind of said, hey, this is what's going on. And I know I need help. And I know that I got to just be real with you. And I got to just share what's going on. So it was my brothers that I'm super close to, and also some good friends. And I know for me, I'm a people person. I know I could easily isolate right now and try to figure this out on my own. And I was like, I know that's not a good idea. So tried hanging out with guys most nights. Just to have good company. Sometimes we do stuff fun. Sometimes we would talk about it. But what was crazy is I started to share what was going on. And this is all I'm wrestling with. This is the struggle. And they started sharing with me. Hey, man, I've dealt with the same thing. Hey, man, this is what's going on in my relationship. And so all of a sudden, we're just talking life. And we're just talking real. And we're growing. And we're actually, it felt like for the first time, it was not just about sports or just joking around. It was like, we're actually doing life together, and we're encouraging each other. Yes. And that came from a place of just complete raw vulnerability where it was all out on the table anyway. So I was like, whatever, my reputation is going to be what it's going to be.
Do you need a new roof or new paint job on your home or business and live in Northern Colorado? If so, check out one of our sponsors, M&E Painting and Roofing. We've been around for 20 years here in the community, and full disclosure, I am the M in M&E. Check them out at mdepainting.com. Are you a business owner who is struggling to understand and navigate the world of digital media? If so, check out one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. They are the go-to source for everything digital related to your business. Not only are they a sponsor, but they also take care of all of our company's website. They produce this podcast, and I highly recommend them. Check them out at imprint-digital.com. Might as well throw it all out there.
Let's just do it. Yeah.
But isn't it cool? Because in our men's mastermind and men's retreats and conferences, anytime we're with a group of guys, and you're sitting there with the surface level, hey, how's it going? And then one guy just drops something. And you can create environments, right? And I know you do this. You create an environment where that gets pulled out, and it has to happen. And you've got to nudge a little bit, right? But the minute it does, everybody else is, oh, yeah, me too. Oh, yeah, been there. And then that guy tells a little bit more, and it starts leveling up. And then you're just sitting there like, yeah, we're all real humans.
Yeah.
I talk about that in Painted Baby, right? You paint a picture of perfection. It prevents true connection, and everybody's buttoned up and thinking they're doing life perfectly.
Yeah. So
everybody feels like they're posturing and positioning for that.
Exactly.
So when does that turn into intentional man?
Yeah. So this is what's so cool about this story is I remember in the separation, I'm spending time with God, and I'm just reading John 5. And I read John 5:17, and this is probably a verse I've read 100 times, but it just literally says, my Father is working, and so am I. It's just Jesus saying that. My Father is always working, and so am I. And I remember in that moment, it was such a this jumped off the page. Clearly, God was speaking to me through this verse. And in my mind, I go, okay, awesome. That means this marriage is going to be saved. God is working. And so I kind of took that and was like, oh, this is so cool. God's working. Let's just keep sticking close to him. Things are going to work out. They didn't work out. Ended up getting a divorce in April of 2020.
So it's about a year?
So the separation was about 5-6 months. It was November to April.
November to April.
November to April. And this is 2020. COVID's going on.
So you're going through COVID, right? So you're coming out of 19 into 20. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it was pretty crazy time. Honestly, COVID was one of my least worries at the time. I was trying to save a marriage. But so I remember getting to that point where it officially ended and being like, God, what? You told me you were working. This is confusing. Why are we here? But at that point, I just felt like, hey, I've grown a ton in this season. I've grown closer to the Lord. He strengthened my trust in him in so many ways. So I got 7 of my closest friends together. This is right after the divorce. And I knew I just needed guys to do life with. And I said, guys, can we please just do life together, push each other? Let's set big goals. Let's break passivity. Let's go after big things. Let's encourage each other to get in the word each morning.
Yep.
And so we got 8 of us. And we had just launched a church at that point. So it's 8 guys in the church. And we're like, okay, let's do this. So we're texting each other every morning. Hey, just got in the word. This is what I learned. We were meeting together every Monday to do a workout. And I was just putting those on, just making up some workout in the park. And we do those together. And we were going to hike a 14er at the end of the year. So we're just all trying to get in good shape. And so we're just doing life together. And then everybody had set goals for the whole summer. This is what we're going to chase after. And so we're just going after it, man. Like not living passively, being real, pushing each other, doing life together. And it was life-changing. All of us can look back on that season and be like, that was some of the most I've ever grown. Because I did life with other people. And even these guys' wives are coming up and they're saying like, what is happening to my husband's? Like we can see such a difference. And it's so cool because we just had so many amazing moments in there. And we get to the fall and we're like, our lives are different. We got to bring this to the whole church. And so we're like, okay, let's just do what we did with everybody. And because it was my idea back in April, I became the leader of this group. So now we have 35 guys all kind of doing the same thing. And I'm the leader. And keep in mind, this is 4 months after my divorce. I feel like I'm at my lowest. I feel like I'm my least qualified to be a leader.
Right.
And here I am.
Mr. Perfect pastor's kid.
Exactly.
Marriage just falls apart right publicly. And now you're leading a group of 35 guys in the church.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And I think of that verse where, in your weakness, you are made strong. And I think about that. And just see it so much in that season and just learn so much that, hey, people are following me right now because I'm just being real, because I'm just being authentic. And I'm saying, guys, I just went through this, but I don't want to ever do that again. I don't want to be passive again. I don't want to coast through life again. Let's go do this together. And people rallied, man. And we had this awesome group. And so I got to the end of that year and I'm doing an end of the year review, just kind of looking back. And I realized I was reminded of John 5:17. God's always working. And so am I. And I was like, we have all these guys now that are throwing off passivity, living intentionally. I get emotional every time I talk about it because it's so cool to see. It didn't play out the way that I wanted to, but God was very much working in it.
And leading into the conversation because you're like, man, God's working, right? Not the way you wanted or that you hoped in the marriage, and then he leads you to something else. At that point, so like, how do you go back and reconcile that verse and God working, Father working always with the marriage, and it not going the way that you were hoping or wanted?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely didn't go the way that I wanted, but I can see that God. It's so cool because God used it, men's coaching, men's ministry, helping guys, doing what I do now, what I feel like is my life's work from here until I die. I want to help men overcome passivity. That's what God used in that season. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without that season. We wouldn't have had the men's ministry that we had today without that season. So you look back and you're like, yeah, God didn't work it in the marriage the way that I wanted, but he was working through all of it to kind of send me in this path that I'm on now.
And prior to all that, right, into the separation, you're like, I'm leaning into God. And you asked him to show you and guide you, take you through all that. And it just took you to different outcome. If you wouldn't have done that, where do you think you'd be today?
Oh, man.
When you were sitting there, right, when you were up in Estes and you're like, I'm just going to go this way. Because so many people go this way.
It's really easy to.
Right? And I want to go back to that because you're like, well, I'll just lean into God, right? And you're like, oh, there's Jonathan the pastor's kid. No, really, this is what people are saying. Easier said than done because so many people play the victim, shut it down, right? We were talking about this the other day, Joey. They're like, oh, poor me, woe is me. You hear it 3 seconds out of the first couple of words out of their mouth.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
So easy to do. But back to that, like, how did you stay in that space?
Yeah.
Because I don't think people always stay in that space either, right? It's like you get yanked in, or you hear the old song on the radio, right?
Sure.
Or somebody pulls you over here to their story.
Definitely.
So talk through that a little bit, like as you look back now.
Yep. That's why I say it was such a God moment, because it is the natural thing for me in that moment felt like I need to be angry. I need to blame. This hurts so bad. I got to go do anything to get my mind off of it. And so I don't blame people that go that way, because that's where I would have gone if I didn't have that day with God where I just kind of like allowed him to speak into it. I feel like I for sure would have gone that direction. And there's no way I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I probably would still be blaming and everything, and I wouldn't have grown. I would have missed all these opportunities. Probably would have gone back to a job that I didn't like and just gone back into that kind of coasting season that I was in.
Dead end guy at the dead end job with the dead end life and the excuses.
Definitely could have happened.
And the victim. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who do that, who blame things in the past for why they are in the present. And I think I could have easily done that. You know what? I was on a good path. Then this person did this to me, and that's why.
Yeah.
And that's my excuse. Yeah, that's why I'm not pursuing my dreams. That's not why I'm doing what I love to do, because listen to this story. Look what happened to me. You know, you try to get people to feel sorry for you. You use that as an excuse your whole life instead of ever cutting it down and saying, you know what? Yeah, there's two sides to the story, but I have some responsibility here, and all I can be responsible for is my actions going forward. And I attribute so much of that to the mentors and to the friends.
Yeah.
I really think if I would have just tried to do that on my own without setting those things in place, I don't think I would have lasted. It was too hard. But those guys kept me going every single week.
Yeah. So tangible thing for guys and gals too, but like especially men, right? So they're going through that. Some big life event has happened, a letdown, a failure, and they've got those forks in the road. Like, be the victim, play the victim. We're not going to go there. Because when you do, you'll find people that love hearing that story and love going, oh, you poor thing, right? And then they just fuel and feed your story, and then you guys all hang out at like victim breakfast together. Have you? I've heard those. I've like been at breakfast and heard those. It's wild. So we want to go over here. So there's, what would you just say, that committing to do it, right? Like you made an absolute commitment.
I did.
To do it. You got with other people. So would you say that would be like a step 2? So commit to doing it. Write down 2, 3 people, even just one.
Yeah, even just one.
And then you obviously, luckily, you know people here, right? So let's say you don't know somebody's new in town. Like, how do you go find that?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you've got intentional man.
That's
right?
what I would hope
stuff
is
here.
there's things like that you go find. You can go get a coach. You can go get a therapist. You know, somebody that you can talk to, and that'll kind of keep you accountable. But I would say for sure, step 1 is make the commitment, and then from there, I wrote down the things that I felt like I needed to do. So it got very specific, because when you kind of just say, yeah, I'm just going to go make this commitment, I'm going to do better, but it's vague. When things are vague, they don't usually get done. I wrote down God time every day, fasting once a week, meeting with a mentor, meeting with friends. It was very specific, and working out every day. It was very specific of what I was going to do. And so then I just had to go find somebody to keep me to it, and have some great people that wouldn't play my mentors were awesome, because they would challenge me anytime I would start to go victim.
They'd call you on your BS.
They'd say, you know what? Yeah, it sucks that happened, but we're here now. So what are you going to do about it?
Yep.
And that's what I needed in the moment, to be like, yeah, you're right. All I can control is what I can do. So let's do that.
You also mentioned too, showing up and saying, I'm not okay. I need help. I'm missing something here. And identifying that pretty clearly, right? I'm also not guessing. I mean, we know this, but that's a third thing, is like, here's the thing I'm struggling with specifically that I don't want any more of. I need to go more this way than that way. And then you let those people know, and then they hold you accountable.
Yep, I had to. I had to be fully honest. And the fact that it was public kind of forced me to, because that would have been harder for me to do. But I knew that people knew what was going on. People weren't seeing her around anymore. People were noticing I was by myself at all these events, you know, so I kind of got thrust into that. But I would say that's a huge factor of it, is just being okay. And it doesn't have to be with everybody. I'm not saying go announce it to the world, but find the couple people that you trust, that you feel like you can totally be you to, I think is huge. And unfortunately, a lot of guys, we just don't have it.
I was talking to Andrew Johnson was on the podcast. He was a corn farmer who became an international dancer and now runs a huge networking company. And he was just talking about his journey of realizing, you know, being in kind of the same spot and improving. And he just said, owning and being okay currently where you are, that you're not okay right now. Just own it. Like if you're 30 pounds overweight, everybody's always looking at the end result of, and then they're so far away. It's like, just be okay. Like I'm kind of like, I was pretty fat 6 months ago, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fat right now.
Yeah.
Just owning that and knowing that you're going to start those daily actions to,
for sure,
to drive forward.
Yep. Yeah. Not comparing yourself to other people. You got to be okay with that, because that's always one of the things that'll steal you real quick. If you start to make progress and you say, well, that marriage is great, or that guy's way fitter than me, or his business is way more successful, then I all of a sudden start to be really focused on myself and everything that I don't have. But that's one thing, to just compare yourself to your former self. I love that.
Yes.
Don't compare yourself to others. Always compare yourself to your former self. Are you improving and getting better? And when you're 30 pounds overweight and you lose 10 and you still are 20 and you're comparing yourself to that person, you're going to be in that gap where you're like, man, I'm still overweight. But you look back and you go, wow, I've lost 10 pounds. That's amazing. What if I just keep that going? I can lose 10 more. That's a way different mindset. And so I think that was huge too, of just being okay with where you are and then constantly looking back and saying, wow, God is growing me a ton. I'm a way different person than I was then.
Do you get to a point where, did you intentionally do this, where you step out and fly out and look at all of the journey and the growth? Because when you're in it, right, when you're doing the daily activity, like it's okay, again, like in the Word, I'm doing the daily Bible reading right now. So it's like you don't realize it in the day in, day out, but then you fly back, you're like, we're 75 days in or whatever that is. So I feel like I have to schedule, and when we should schedule time just to pull back.
Yes.
And like review the tape.
Yep. I love that.
How was that for you?
Yeah. So ever since that separation, I've done a quarterly retreat. And it can be, it can be half a day, it can be 2 days, whatever it is. But I put it in my calendar. Every quarter, I'm going to go have a time where I look back and reflect. And I've even got better now of writing down at the beginning of each quarter, my current reality is what I call it. This is exactly where I am. This is what I'm feeling. These are my emotions. And I just have 5 different categories for that. You're going through your health, spiritual, mental, emotional. So I kind of write down details for those. And then I can, at the end of the quarter, look back to what I wrote then and see, wow, yeah, I actually did grow in a lot of ways. And that's when you can allow growth to catch up to you. I think John Maxwell says that of you got to pause in order to allow growth to catch up to you.
Yes.
People always say that experience is the best teacher, and it is a teacher, but evaluated experience
but you got to have
is
it
the best teacher.
Documented and observed, right?
Yeah, you got to actually take time to do that. So
you're hitting your categories like faith, family, fitness, right? If you do the 5 F's or all those buckets of your life, and then are you just evaluating quarterly emotions, how you're feeling? Or are you tangibly putting like, okay, fitness, I'm 185 pounds. What are those categories over those domains? Emotional, and then I don't know if you necessarily do it that way, but just trying to give some structure to.
I do. I usually try to give as much details as I can. So I'll have the specifics. So like finance, you'll say this is exactly where I am. Health wise, you can say. So I would go, weight wise, I would say these are my current habits, because that one's really easy to say. To only look at weight. But if you were working out 1 day a week and then you started working out 3 days a week, that's a huge win if you look back. But a lot of times we only look at the weight and that. So I like to write down as many details as I can, and then also the emotions around it. So especially spiritually, because that one's it's a little harder to quantify. And so I'll write down, right now, these are kind of the doubts I'm feeling. This is kind of where I feel like I'm struggling. This is where I feel like I have a lot of faith. This is kind of where I'm at. Yep. So then I can look back and be like, oh yeah, this is actually where God grew me a ton. And that was something I struggled with for a long time, was always waiting for this big spiritual moment to happen and just being frustrated with God. Like, why isn't this one thing happening that kind of sets me on fire? And, and I just learned in that separation, when you daily spend time with God, there's going to be a lot of days where you don't really realize anything's happening. There's going to be some days where it's like the John 5:17 instance and you feel something very specific. But then I looked back 3 months later and I was like, oh my gosh, my trust, my dependence, my knowledge, my love for God has grown so much because I did a daily thing. And I wouldn't have realized it if I didn't actually take time to look back and realize this is everything he did in my life. It's really easy to miss that if you don't have these times to pause.
Thanks for sharing, man. Yeah. So tell me specifically what Intentional Man does. Like, how can people get plugged in? Tell us about the group, the podcast, because you've got groups, podcasts, coaching online. Yes. You have some awesome videos. Those are always posting. I want to talk about the saying no before we go today, because that's so powerful. Let's definitely do it. So powerful.
Let's definitely do it. Yeah. So Intentional Man, it started as a podcast, and I just really wanted to help men live very intentional lives. I think that was what I realized for me, was I was living a very reactive life instead of a proactive life. I was slipping into passivity without even realizing it. And so that's my mission with Intentional Man, is to inspire and equip men to overcome passivity and build lives of generational significance. That is what I want to do. And so with it, I have the podcast, but then service-wise, there's a membership once a month. And that's just trying to give you all the tools, environment, everything to help you continuously grow and to not slip into passivity. Because it's easy when you're just coasting to look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I just realized I spent 6 months not really doing anything. And so I wanted to have a community. I wanted to have coaching. I wanted to have tools, exercises, frameworks, everything in there to help fight against that of where we're just coasting. So that's the membership. And then I have a 12-week one-on-one coaching program that's got a just intentional life mastery program. And it goes through 4 habits of intentional living, 3 weeks on each of them. And so that's a one-on-one program. And then I'm just releasing some digital courses. I have a full 12-week goal system, setting, tracking, a lot of stuff we just talked about.
Yep.
You start with your current reality, you set your process, you track your progress, you only compare against yourself, then you review at the end of the quarter. So I have that. I just released as a digital course. That's also a big part of the membership, and working on a couple other courses now as well.
How's that all been, right? Because you had the web design experience, but building like the online and the platform, and I'm seeing you more in social. Or maybe the algorithm's just showing you more because it probably spied on us when I was talking to you at the gym, right?
Maybe.
Well, it was literally after that day that we talked, I saw that one video. I'm like, you're just getting put. I really think they do. But,
they do.
But how's been growing that from just an idea, right? 7 guys turning to 35 guys at the church to what, 4 years later now? 4, 5?
Yeah.
Got all these resources. Like, talk about just building the business.
Yeah,
part of it. So there's a lot to that people don't realize.
There's a lot to that. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun and a lot of stress and challenge. And I mean, I think one of the best. You just learn a ton as a business owner because it's easy in life to only do the things that you're comfortable with. You kind of get going in your groove, and you're like, I'm good at these things. I'm only going to do these. As a business owner, launching something brand new every week, you're doing something you haven't done before. So that was really hard for me for a long time, getting comfortable not being good or not knowing what to do. You're like, I got to get used to this feeling of coming in here and being like, all right, I'm starting a podcast. I don't even know what you do.
If you're a Christian business owner in Northern Colorado, check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian peer-to-peer advisory network where you can plug in as a business owner, not only to talk about how to improve your business, but how to integrate your faith. Check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. And remember, they're not only a sponsor, but I'm also a member of their group. If you have a story to share and you're thinking of becoming an author to do so, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Scribe Media. I worked with Scribe to publish Painted Baby, and I'm currently working with them again to publish my next book, Pour Into People. Click on the link in the show notes below to connect with them, and they'll actually give you a little something extra because you came to them through me. How are you on the camera? Because I meet with a lot of people that you stick a camera, like they're talking just fine, right? Having coffee, talking, and then you hold up the camera.
And you freeze.
They freak out. How did you initially do with the camera?
I was decent just because I've done some speaking in church in my life. But what's funny is you think you're pretty good, and then you watch it back and you're like, oh, wow, I'm boring. I'm terrible. Like the camera, you got to be.
This guy sucks. Joey one day like, you suck. Redo that. Cut.
I know. Yeah, it's really easy. So I had to like be okay with that too, of like, oh, I'm not as good as I thought I would be. And that's okay. Exactly. Like, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
I can't compare myself right now to Tony Robbins, who's done this for 30 years. That wouldn't be fair. I haven't done it 30 years. I'm brand new. So it's okay if I suck, but I got to keep going, and eventually I'll get better.
You go back and watch your tape though from 2 years, 3 years ago. And see the difference.
Yeah. Some of my first podcast episodes, I just cringe.
Well, dude, I can tell you now, like the engagement we're having now compared to when I came on your podcast, and maybe it's because it's in person, but I don't think it's fully that. But you're way more, I think, say maybe secure or just in your space of who you are.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you as much then.
Yeah.
But like I can see it. If we go back and watch ours, like I can definitely see it and feel it. Dude, it wasn't bad. We had a great podcast. But I mean, it was remote. It was on Zoom. Mm-hmm. But like I can see that for sure.
For sure.
So good job, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Awesome. And that's always encouraging to do is, look back and don't beat yourself up, but appreciate the progress that you've had. Compare yourself to your former self.
Yeah.
I'm proud of those first videos because I did it. I stepped out and did something that a lot of people don't usually do.
Yeah.
Because it's scary and it's uncomfortable and you're not good. So we usually have fear and we don't do it. So I want to be, even though I don't think those videos are great, I want to be proud of them because I'm like, hey, I'm proud of the guy that at the time didn't have the skills and still did it.
Yeah.
And look at where we are here a couple of years later. And I hope in 5-10 years, I'll look back in these times and be
look at this one and be like, dang, this one was rough. I
don't
know about this.
Wasn't great.
Well, and there's so many people that want, like, hey, they want to be great on video or have a podcast or do whatever, but they don't want to be in the uncomfortable space. And they say, well, I'm just going to wait till I get better.
Yep.
And that's how you get better, is your first, everything kind of sucks. Joey, how was your first video production?
The first one I ever shot, bro,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it was not good. Out of focus, poorly lit.
Dude, our first podcast, so we had a setting wrong on these cameras. So if you go back to the first, 20 Gentle Art of Leadership?
It was actually it was actually like 10 or
was it only 10?
11 or something like that. I
were
figured
skipping.
it out. Yeah.
It was just a setting. And Joey and I were like calling our friends and researching, and it was literally a button to change the setting on the camera.
I found one video, and it was like, here's how you do it on these Sony cameras. And I was like, oh my God. All right.
Well, I remember our podcast, I had an audio issue where there was something kind of weird in the audio.
That's right.
And you texted me, you're like, man, the audio sounds a little weird. And I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Like, I don't know. It's all good.
But it is what it is.
It's all good.
So
my first video, we'll have to go back and find it, Joey. I don't know if we can find it. We'll cut it in here. But it was 2009. The Chamber of Commerce did this Survivor Award. So you applied to say, oh, I survived the big crash, right? And we were actually growing quite a bit then. So I sit in front of this green screen in a blue. Is Emily in there, Joey, with you?
Nah, she's not.
No, she left. In this blue Hawaiian shirt, and they have the volcano going off in the back. And I was like, there was a volcano of chaos and we survived. And I've got to find it. You got to find it. It was rough. That was my first time in front of the camera. It was wild.
Yeah. Oh, that's starting a business, man. You just got it. You're going to run into those moments all the time. And I still am, You launch a new ad campaign that you've never done before and you have to throw money at it and figure it out. You got to be okay with it. And it's really scary. But that's honestly the part that I love about running my own business too, is there's, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I'm not quite as far in the business financially or whatever that I would hope, but I can look back and say I'm such a better person for it. And the skills that I've gained are, you can't put a price tag on that. No. And I have all this content built up that I was forced to think through and write and create. Now I can use it. And so I look back a lot in the last year and just be like, man, I could be bummed out with where I'm at in some ways, but I'm also just so encouraged because I'm like, I am such a different person from then to now. And I gained so much experience and skills and frameworks and things that now I can pass on to other people because I was willing to just be in that uncomfortable space of let's just figure this thing out.
When you're in that space of helping people and creating something to do it, you have to be good at it. Like you got to be. They're going to keep you on your toes, right? You can't be the guy teaching it and not be good at it.
Yeah.
But Joey, we were just talking about this. We've been here. What are we coming up? This is probably 90 episodes. And I'm just, I'm remembering when we were hanging these little hangers on the wall. There were no photos. We didn't even have the camera. Now that wall's full.
It's full.
And I was counting the numbers, the money that we've invested, like in the books, in the building, in the podcast studio, and the trips to Spain. I mean, it's been a lot. And it's finally, I'd say after 4 years, 5 years. What, Joey? I mean, we finally are starting to see those things sprout.
Yeah.
Would you say? Like, for me, it felt like December, like right about the end of last year, beginning of this year. Everybody's like, oh, like I had some just like random guy walk up to me in the supermarket and tap me. I've been watching you for years. I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But it was cool. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But you just don't realize those daily things, those daily habits. And if you look at it short term and you lose sight of, it just takes time to grow something.
It's really easy to do that. Yeah. So the biggest thing that's helped for me is, and I teach this a lot, is I want to be a person that lives for significance over success. And the difference for me is success is all about you. Significance is about others.
Yeah.
And anytime I go into a podcast recording or I'm going to speak or I'm creating a course, I almost always have a freak out moment.
Do you? Still? Yeah, me too.
Where you're like, is anyone going to care? Is this going to be good? Is anyone going to listen? Am I going to be engaging enough? Am I going to be funny enough? Is this good enough content? I always have this moment of a kind of a freak out. But that is me being really self-focused. How am I going to be perceived? Are people going to like me? When I'm in that mindset, it's terrifying. What we do is really scary because it is a vulnerable position to be somebody who's a thought leader and people are looking to you for advice or whatever it is. And if you make it about yourself, that's when I really freak out. then I have to take a moment and just say, remember why I'm doing this. Yeah. This is to help other people. This is to help other men. And when I have that mindset in my life and in my business, take the focus off of me, put it on other people. How are you showing up to serve people? Man, there's no pressure. Like when I'm coming in here and I'm just like, I just want to love people. If they like me, whatever, but I hope they get something out of it. I'm just going to do my best to do that. Yeah. It's so much more fun.
And be okay if they don't like you.
And be okay, which is really hard.
Have you gotten to that point though, where somebody like they don't like you and you know it, or have you gotten?
I mean, I've had some comments. You get comments on social media.
You just got to be like real good with it. I'm getting real good at it. Like awesome.
Yeah.
Like good. I'm gonna be more of this.
So that's what I am. The best part of that, like mindset wise, and this is really hard to do. I don't always do it perfectly. I want to be somebody who's doing something where I'm stepping out of my comfort zone enough where if I get criticism, it means I'm doing something that's actually worth doing. That's my mindset on it. If no one is ever criticizing or coming at me for anything, it means I'm probably hiding or playing it safe. Yeah. That's just my perspective on it.
Because how much criticism did you get when you were trying to be perfect?
Yeah, when I'm just doing that, website design thing and just kind of cruising through, I'm comfortable, man. I'm not getting criticism. I'm not getting praise either, but you're just kind of like doing the thing. But now I'm like, man, if I get criticism, it's hard, but I'd rather be in a place where I'm doing what I feel like I'm supposed to do and putting myself out there and pushing past fear. And if I get it, it means I'm on the right track because I'm actually doing something where I'm pushing past a barrier a lot of people aren't willing to go.
And when you were back comfortable and complacent and perfect, you're making zero impact.
Zero impact.
Yeah, but it feels pretty good, right?
Right. Yeah. Like it's not as scary.
When you're only
it's not
focusing
as
on yourself, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you just like cruise through life, and then it's over pretty fast, which is wild.
Which is the scary part, which is what I don't want, man.
Yeah.
And there's a quote, I think it's Rory Vaden, but he says, "There's no reason to fear when the mission to serve is clear."
Yes.
There's no reason to fear when the mission to serve is clear. So I try to keep that in my head all the time of like, don't make it about yourself. When it's about yourself, you get really nervous, you get uncomfortable. Just make it about other people. There's no reason to fear.
And I've observed too, and we're seeing this a lot just with our family and the Pour Into People company. And we've had a lot going on here in the last couple of weeks, like where it's been very clear, like, cool, this is where we're going. This is who supports it. This is who doesn't. Awesome. Like, let's go. Yeah. And it's interesting though, but when you're clear on the mission and you know it's good and it's God-centered, you just lean into that. You go. And like he takes care of it. And you don't really need to know what's in front of it. Like that's been really hard for me. I always get tied up on the money. Like when the money starts getting at risk, or I start to see those bank accounts go down. And I've never said this like my entire life. We've invested the most money we've ever invested. Like this would have just shut me down 20 times over. Even last year, 5 years ago, absolutely. I just told Emily this morning, I'm like, it's all good. It's cool. Like totally at peace with it. Yeah. And it's just good.
Yep.
So that was a big one for me.
Yeah. And it's
just been the more you lean in, and then the crazier it gets. Just be good. Just be at peace. Yeah. Like God's in it. Last thing I want to talk about, because you're going to talk about this at Coffee Bar. Mm-hmm. And I loved this video. This is like why you're here. Because Emily and I, a couple podcasts ago, this year is the year of no for us. No. Everything's a no until it's a yes. We've said yes to so many things, so many people, so many businesses, so many commitments. And it's just crazy. Mm-hmm. So we got into last year, into this year, like this doesn't make sense. We can't keep this up. So it was just hit the brakes, and you got to say no. Yeah. And I realized how hard that was.
Very hard.
Like I said no to something about somebody, something really stupid and small, and I just like, oh gosh, I can't do that. I can't say no. But just talk about that, why it's important for leaders, and then just how to do it. Because now it's fun. Now I love to say no.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, the hardest one is, hey, can we get a cup of coffee and talk business? I love that so much. Like I really do.
Yeah, really do.
That's what built me up was going to coffee with other mentors and business owners. I can't do it right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I love that. I'm like, no, sorry. And then they kind of look at you. I'm like, still no, sorry. Not right now.
Yep, it's really difficult.
How do you process through that? Like help our
this has been one of my biggest
on
downfalls. I would say this is one of my areas where I needed to grow the most coming into running a business. Because I was, you're in ministry, you're used to just saying yes to anyone who asks you to go meet, and you want to love people, and you're like, I'm doing this to help guys, and so I'm going to take every opportunity, and I just took everything. So last year, I was literally trying to build a business. I was the men's director at Timberline Church, the men's director at my church. I was building websites on the side. I was shipping out these time-lapse equipment units for my friend, which I should have never said yes to in the first place. So I'm doing all this stuff. And I keep thinking like, why am I not getting the business results that I want? I'm not growing as fast. Well, look at my focus. It is everywhere. And in the middle of that, anyone who asked me to hang out, I'm there. Because I just was too nervous to say no. I'm like, I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings. And I might be busy this week, but I'm probably not next. And so I felt like I always had to say yes. And I would get to the end of my weeks and be like, I didn't do anything I wanted to do. And I'd look back and be like, well, I packed it with so many things. I didn't have time to do it. And my typically where I would go is, okay, how do I get more efficient? How do I get more productive? How do I add in habits?
Yeah, how do I pack in more stuff and do it efficiently to do it
more
at less quality? Yeah.
And finally, I'm like, I need to eliminate. Usually the best way to focus more and to get more productive is to start cutting things out instead of adding things in. So usually I love talking habits and let's build habits and routines. And so that's where I would go. And I was like, I'm still not getting anything done. Well, it's because I'm saying yes to everything. I have way too many things going on. And so I had to learn this. I think the thief of great, the thief of you accomplishing your dreams, one of them is the good. All these things were good. It wasn't like I was saying yes to all these things that were super detrimental to me. They were all decent opportunities.
And they're all good things. It's easy to say something or to say no to something that you know just has nothing to do with anything. It's like, that's easy. But it's all the good stuff.
But when it's good things, when it's that meeting with that guy that you're like, I do want to help this guy. You know, like there's all these things that are good, but they take away from the great because when you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. And that's just where I was at. Way too long, diluted focus. So I was like, I got to figure out what to do. I got to figure out how to say no. I'm a people pleaser by nature. I don't like saying no. Somebody asked me, so I'm like, I need a framework. I need help. I need resources. I got to grow in this thing. So I started going through just reading books about it and trying to figure out how I was going to do this, and came across two different things that helped me a lot. So one of them is from Michael Hyatt in his book, Free to Focus. And he just says, there's a lot of trade-offs. So every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So think about this. Every time I say yes to this meeting in the middle of the day, I'm saying no to an hour that could be spent building content. Every time I say yes to hanging out with a friend or client or whatever at night, you're saying no to your family time. Every time I say yes to even just pulling out my phone and looking at social media,
scrolling through a feed, or checking
even that is
whatever that
yes.
is.
I'm saying no to being productive and doing the things I know I should do. So for me, that helped a lot. Every yes is also a no. As a guy who hates to say no, I started to kind of think through that. Okay, every time I say yes, I am saying no to somebody, and I hate saying no. So let's
flip the script.
Let's flip it and just make sure I'm saying yes to the thing that actually is the most important. If I say yes to this one guy, this one meeting, but it takes away from my mission with Intentional Man, which is to reach hundreds of guys, I can now see, the impact that I want to have with my life. And the best thing I can do right now is to actually work on my business because it was created to help a lot of guys. So I got to say no to this one opportunity, which feels hard, but I'm saying yes to greater impact.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing I ask myself now. That's what Michael Hyatt said. Every time you're presented with an opportunity, ask yourself that question. What are you giving up to in order to say yes to this? What are you saying no to in order to say yes? So that was a big one. And then there's actually there's three ways we typically say yes, and then there's kind of a framework. Do you want to kind of walk through that?
Do that. Yeah,
part?
because I really love that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So typically we say when we're presented with an opportunity and we want to say no, a lot of times we go three different ways. And so, and you could probably think of these in your life. I kind of laugh when I see them too, because I'm like, I do this all the time. Yeah. So the first one's accommodate. And this just means you just say yes when you want to say no. It's an opportunity. You should say no, but you feel bad. You're too much of a people pleaser. You don't want to hurt their feelings, so you just say yes. And that's not great because you're doing something that you didn't want to do. Then there's attack, which is I just say no to you just harshly without thinking about your feelings. Whereas in the accommodate, I'm thinking probably too much about them and not enough about me or my family or whoever else it's impacting. In the attack, you're only thinking about yourself. Yeah. Dude, why would you even ask me? No way. I don't have time for you. That's not valuable. It's not worth my time. Those things, you're hurting the person's feelings. You might burn the relationship by saying those. So, and then there's just avoidance is the last one. And this is the one I probably do the most. When it's something I actually don't really want to do, you will leave it unread in your messages. You'll say, I'm going to come back to this later, and you never do, or you think that it's going to be better to tell them no in a week, and you do, and it's way worse than if you would have just said no right away. But we think somehow we're softening the blow by avoiding it, dragging it on. So those are the three ways a lot of times we do it. And sometimes you can even do all three in once. So think of this scenario. Somebody asks you something. You don't want to do it, so you avoid it. A few days go by. They come in and they ask you.
They follow up.
You get mad that they followed up, or you feel embarrassed that you never responded. So you lash out and you answer in a way you didn't want to. Then you feel bad the next day that you answered in that way. And so you accommodate and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I just did all three things, and I ended up doing what I didn't want to do to begin with. And I'm still saying yes when I wanted to say no.
Yeah.
So those are three ways that a lot of times we respond. So here's a framework that I got. It's from Harvard professor William Ury. He has a book called The Power of a Positive No. I think it's what it's called. He just calls this the yes, no, yes framework. So this is when you need to say no to something in order to say yes to something better. You start off with yes. And the first part of that yes is just saying yes to that other opportunity that you would be saying no to. So I know that if you're asking me to do this, it's going to take away time from my family. I'm going to say yes to them instead of yes to you. So that's the yes. Also, you want to affirm the person who asked you. So start off with hey, that's really exciting that you have this going on. Really pumped for you. I feel honored that you would ask me. So that's kind of some phrases you could say to do the yes. Then the no, you got to be really clear on your no. Because a lot of times we'll say, hey, right now I can't do it, or maybe later, when you have no intentions of ever actually following through. So it's best to just say no. Hey, thank you so much for asking me and thinking of me. At this time, I will not be able to do whatever you're requesting. So you're very clear with the no. Don't leave it open for interpretation. And then you finish with the yes, which is just what I like to think of is, are there other ways I can say yes to them that aren't this time intensive or aren't stealing things away? So instead of a meeting, hey, here's 3 of my favorite resources that'll give you some of the best information. Here they are. Here's 3 other companies that can help you with this problem. These are my favorite ones. Here's my favorite book on the topic. This thing one changed my life. Here you go. Or even, I can't meet for an hour. I can do a 5-minute phone call. Would love to do that. Let's schedule it. 5 minutes. We'll just hop on the phone, do a quick conversation. So you affirm them. You say yes to what's important to you. You clearly state no. Don't leave room for interpretation. Then you finish with some sort of offering or affirmation of the relationship.
And you're still giving them value.
You're still giving them value.
Do you mention that communication? I can't do this because I'm committed to this right now. So do you ever share that?
Yeah, I typically do. But sometimes, honestly, you don't really have a good excuse and it feels like you have to. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I just say, hey, right now, this is just not the best time for me, or whatever. I don't know. It's best to just be honest. That's what I found.
Love it. So, well, man, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. We got fun. We got coffee bar people coming in a minute. So we got to go get some food and some coffee. We wrap the show up same way. Every guest, do you have the statement that you want to leave with the world when you leave it? What do you have over there?
This is a quote from Mark Batterson that I really love. It says, "Potential is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God."
Love it. Jonathan McGinley.
Thanks, man.
It's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, drop a comment below. Make sure to watch the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're a business owner looking to improve your life, leadership, faith, family, and business, I've got a couple of free things that I'd love to share with you. So go to mattschaub.com and download my free tools. I guarantee these couple of things will get you started off in the right direction.